evening, and welcome to the Sound Off Show. My name is Linda Kirker. I host the program, and thanks for tuning in tonight. I really appreciate it when you do that. My guest tonight and myself have many topics to discuss, and as we go along, after we get wound up and get going here, if you should have a question or want to make a comment, we would love to hear from you. The phone number is on the screen, and so you're welcome to call in. I would like to start the program by reminding you that Veterans Day is this coming Saturday, the 11th of the month, and I hope that you will make an effort to reach out to any veterans that you know and thank them for their service to our country. We owe them a great debt of gratitude, and we need to respect them at every turn. So please make that effort. And I wanted to mention something that happened to me this morning. I slept in a bit, and I was slowly waking up, and the phone rang. And this person on the other end of the line said, "Hi, Grandma." And I said, "Hi." And he said, "Are you awake? Did I waken you?" And I said, No, you didn't. I'm just slowly waking up here." Well, long story short, this was not my grandson. And I said to him, you sound, I have two grandsons, so I was slowly waking up trying to figure out, okay, which one was this? And I said, "Your voice sounds different." "Oh, well, I've been having a cold." And I said, "Well, where are you?" "Oh, I'm in Massachusetts." Well, both of my grandsons could be traveling with their work, so I didn't think too much of that, but I was feeling suspicious. And I went to pose another question, and the phone went down. He hung up because I think he could sense I was getting suspicious. I said I was having a little bit of trouble with something, and he says, "Oh, do you have someone there to help you? Like, are you alone?" You know, and so I just want to warn you, especially the women out there, but everyone, that if you get a suspicious phone call, don't provide any information about whether you're alone or anything else. Just hang up, okay? Just a warning to the wise. Yep. Okay, for my opener, I feel it's important at this crucial time in our nation where we have so much dissension going on and so many angry people and, you know, the conflicts that are going on. It's really disturbing, but I wanted to bring us back to a fundamental of our nation, the American's creed. Here it is. "I believe in the United States of America as a government of the people, by the people, for the people," not the government, okay, "whose just powers, the government's powers, are derived from consent of the governed." So we have the power, and government needs to get our consent to move forward, but it's not working like that. "A democracy in a republic, a sovereign nation, an independent nation of many sovereign or independent states, a perfect union, one and inseparable, established upon these principles of freedom, equality, justice, and humanity, for which American patriots sacrifice their lives and fortunes. Therefore, I believe it is my duty to my country to love it, to support its Constitution, to obey its laws, to respect its flag, and to defend it against all enemies." Just think about it. We need to get back to uniting ourselves as a country. And the way to unite is to get back to the fundamentals, the principles upon which this country was founded and which still exists today. So unless we're willing to do that, we're going to continue to have a lot of turmoil in this country. And we need to teach our children about the founding principles and how lucky they are to live in this country in freedom and opportunity, instead of making them angry because everything doesn't go their way all the time. Okay, that's my opener, and I'm sticking to it. My guest tonight is Don Tessier. Don, were you in the Army?
No, Air Force.
Air Force. Da, da, da. Well, thank you for your service, Don.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So what would you like to start with tonight? I've started off with my opener.
Well, you know, let's talk about the tax thing that's down in Washington. And
Okay.
our Vermont delegations, Bernie Sanders, Pat Leahy, and Peter Walsh, are saying it's no good. And what brought me to this thing here, as you know, I grew up in Virginia, the birthplace of America almost. And when the delegations down in West Williamsburg didn't agree, they got together, and I see what's happening now a little bit. I think some of the Democrats are starting to work with some of the Republicans in the House to put this thing together. What upset me about our delegation was, first thing out of their mouth, no good, okay? Instead of going to them saying, look, I have an issue with this issue here. Let's see if we can work together and bring it together, okay? I thought we elected them to represent the people, not what their feelings were. All right? The majority of the people want a tax cut, all right? And they keep talking about the millionaires getting it, all right? The little guys are going to get it. The death tax is going to go away, all right?
We have to talk about the death tax.
Right, okay? And other things like that. It's going to be a $1,200 standard deduction for singles, $2,400 for, and then they're going to give a child credit and things like that. I don't know the whole bill, but I've been listening. So I expect our delegation to reach out across the counter and say, look, I can't buy into this. Like there's some Republicans can't buy into certain things in the bill now anyways. Let's get together and see what we can do for the betterment of the country. What upsets me the most is the first thing out of their mouth. Pelosi's another one. It's no good.
Oh, please, and Schumer.
Okay, right. It's no good, all right? Why? Yes, okay. There's certain times you say things I don't agree with, and vice versa. So we work things out to get it harmonized.
We discuss it.
That's right, and that's what I expect out of them, all right? And they're not serving us, and I think it's time that we get somebody new down in Washington, not only for Vermont, but other states too, where these guys have lifetime jobs in the Congress. They're not representing the people, they're representing themselves for all those good perks that they get.
And perhaps they're representing special interests, and the best way maybe to deal with that is to have term limits.
Yes.
Because the more engrossed they get in serving down there, I don't know who they're serving, but when spending time down there in Washington, D.C., the more they become connected with all of these special interests that want them to support this or that.
Well, I don't mean to pick on Bernie Sanders, but I see him on nighttime television. He's going all over the country getting ready for 2020 as far as I can see, okay? Why isn't he working with the people of Vermont and find out what we want and not forget about his campaign to try to be president in 2020?
Well, you know what? I picked up on something. I think it was something I read just recently, that it's very strange that our delegation, our 2 senators and our 1 representative in Washington from Vermont, don't come back to the people and hold public forums on the issues. When do they come back and report to us on a given bill that's under consideration? They don't.
No.
And yet that would give them an open opportunity to hear from us as citizens. But no, they don't do that. It's like they're deciding everything for us. We have brains too. We might have a few good ideas. God forbid, you know. So we need to put pressure on them to come back and not just cut a ribbon because they brought some of our taxpayers back,
right.
tax dollars back for some special event or special cause, but because they respect us and they want to relate with us. That is their job, is it not?
Right. Well, you know, the only time I saw him back here in the state of Vermont is when I went over to Northeast Kingdom, because the Kingdom voted for Donald Trump. As you know, he got 90,000 votes in the election. So, and the Democrats lost in that part of the country, so they wanted to go out and see if they could firm it up. Well, that's not, you know, that's only being self-serving.
That's right.
Right. So what about the rest of the counties? Why aren't they going there and say, what can we do for you? And why aren't they reaching out to the other delegations? All right. There's 100 senators and what, 435 congressmen? So why aren't they going up to these people and say, let's work? On television last night, I don't know if you saw the Saudi Arabia, the princess there.
No, I didn't.
He threw a lot of his cabinet offers people in jail.
He did.
He put them in jail, and the women are going to be able to start driving cars. Okay, and that's unheard of. But he picked him up. He didn't put him in jail. He put him in a hotel and locked him up. All right, about corruption. He found that there was a lot of corruption, a lot of payback, money laundering, all kinds of bad things. And Saudis are trying to clean up their government. That's what we should be doing with ours. Okay, and I think that if Leahy, Sanders, and Peter Walsh, they've been in Congress too long because they feel it's owed to them to be reelected, and they really haven't done a whole lot for the state of Vermont, in my opinion.
Well, this past Saturday, this weekend, the Republican Party had its annual state meeting to elect a new chairperson for the Republican Party in Vermont. And it's really time for the Republicans in this state to start taking action and to communicating with the public about the issues and actually putting up a candidate to run for, I'm not sure, I know Peter Welch, our lone representative, is up for re-election every 2 years.
And then Bernie Sanders is up next.
Okay, so maybe it's time to run candidates, you know, to get going and stop giving away these seats to the liberals.
He's going to run as an independent, is what I heard.
I'd like to make him independent.
Yeah, well, he's independent. He's going to run for independent because, as you well know, the Democratic didn't treat him very well in a presidential.
Oh, there's a big to-do about that.
That's correct.
Donna, what's her name?
Brazil. Yep. And I'm glad I saw her on television, and she said, you can all go to you know where, and she's going to tell her story, which is true, because the Clintons got involved and started doing things which some of it is illegal. And Sessions, our Attorney General, should start looking into things like that.
I think the president's putting some pressure on him.
He should. I mean, and they found out with this deal with the Russians, with Trump, is a big no-no. But a couple of people who were on his campaign staff and stuff years ago did some things, and they're going to go to jail for it.
That has nothing to do with
him,
Donald Trump.
But they're going to go to jail, rightfully so. I don't have a problem with that.
No, I don't either. You know what? You do the wrong thing, you pay the consequences.
Right.
And go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, you talked about, were you on that telephone call when Governor Scott went around the state, and you could call in and ask him a question, and they did every county? And I listened to it. I got on the phone call, and I listened to him. And we'll talk about a little bit later what I heard him say, and I verified it with somebody in his office to make sure I was hearing the right thing that you and I have already discussed. But that's the kind of things that I expect out of Welch, Leahy, and Sanders. I talk to the Vermonters. I see him on Colbert at midnight. He's on all these talk shows, Bernie. He's traveling around the state, energizing his youth. But right here, I listened the other night, 44% of the millennials, all right, believe in socialism.
Well, they've been indoctrinated
with him. So what I'm saying to them, if you don't like it here, why don't you go to Cuba? Why don't you even go to China, okay? And other countries, go to Saudi Arabia and go to some of these countries and see what you think socialism is so good.
And then develop a huge appreciation for a free nation where people are free. Yes.
I mean, I'd just like to send them to North Korea for about 3 days and see what they would think. You mess up, well, it's a sad thing that That University of Virginia student who took a banner down when he was leaving. Remember, they put him in jail in hard labor for 2 years
in North Korea.
North Korea, and they released him in March, and when he come home,
yes,
he died.
Well, they had tortured him beyond belief.
Yeah, and his parents said that they did some awful bad things to him. So I'd like to send these college students and these people over there and see what that is. Just remember what they did to him. When
Inhumane.
Right. If you think the United States of America is no good, then leave.
Yeah, and go and find someplace better.
That's right.
Right? Well, speaking of Governor Scott, I mailed him today. I saw him at the Republican meeting on Saturday, and I took him aside and I just said, I just want you to know I'm sending you an article that I wrote in 2005 about marijuana legalization, and also I'm going to have another enclosure, which I did. I just put that in the mail, and then I'm busily writing on my computer, and I thought, you know what? While I'm doing this, I've had these things on my mind for quite a while, so I'm not going to read this whole thing on TV. But while I have your attention, Governor, here are a few thoughts. I could go on. I could write a book on that one, but. One big benefit to Vermont taxpayers would be to reduce property taxes. To do that, Vermont needs to bring its education spending in line with the average national per pupil spending of $10,700. It is unbelievable and irresponsible for Vermont to spend almost twice the national average per pupil. And then we have to address the student-teacher ratio, which is well below the national average. What are we doing? Vermonters have carried this burden for too long. Quality, affordable education is a must for the future of our students, our state, and our nation. None of this will be popular with the Vermont Education Association, but it will be popular with Vermonters at large. Hire an outside of government auditor to audit the agency of education. Look at spending versus educational outcomes. Student-to-teacher ratios, total staff to students ratio, teacher pay and benefits compared to other states. So
that's very good. That's very good.
Well, and then I had a couple of others which we may or may not get into. The voter checklist. And
I know they found some corruption in New Hampshire. Remember they were talking about Trump said that there was illegal stuff going on in New Hampshire doing a presidential thing. Well, they verified the fact. In New Hampshire, they actually had these people come in, and they sent them letters to verify it. And guess what? They all came back, couldn't deliver it because the address wasn't correct.
Yeah. Well,
so there is corruption, as you well said. All right.
And I have suggestions on that, which maybe I'll get to. But I thought this was maybe a good time for you to mention the facts that you dug up.
Well, as I was talking with Linda, I was on that phone call with the governor. Okay, and I listened, and I thought I heard him say that we had. I forget how many students. I couldn't get that, but it was $1.6 billion of cost
spending in education.
Spent in education. So yesterday I called the governor's office. He wasn't in, and the lady put me into one of the aides, and I called him. I got his voicemail, and he called me back today. So this morning he told me that we have 76,000 students in this population.
In the K through 12.
K through 12, and it's $1.6 billion to do it. So Linda and I figured it out. You divide, 76,000 to 1.6, and it comes up to roughly $21,000 per student.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and this is what she was talking about. Where the national average is 10,000, and we're 20,000. Where is the difference? And that's why we do need an audit. Okay.
Absolutely.
And anybody running, because we're going to have a new election, okay, in 2018 for people in St. Albans, Franklin County, and all the other counties, and all our legislators, we need to hold their feet to the fire and say, your job is to lower the cost of education. because people are moving out, just like that letter that...
What is it, 4,000 a year are leaving the state? Did
Yeah.
you hear that?
There's a lot, just like that letter that Dave McWilliams read, these people who moved to Nashville, Tennessee, and wrote back and said how great it is. Our taxes
Cheap
are
it
down.
is to live.
Everything, food's cheaper, everything's cheaper down there. Of course, they have the Tennessee Valley for electricity, so electricity's cheaper. Everything, all right? Taxes are down. They're glad to down. The problem is we need to start addressing some of these issues, and I do thank him for trying to save us, what it was, $48 million by having his teachers under a statewide...
26 million.
26, okay. $26 million under a statewide health plan, go along with that.
For teachers, yeah.
Because insurance companies aren't going to insure small groups because they can't make any money. Insurance is large numbers. So when you get 90 to 200,000, 300,000, you spread the risk. All right? If you only have 50,000 in people, you're not going to make any money because, say, 10 or 15% are going to be sick. The other ones won't. So if you have 400,000, 15 or 20%, others aren't
They're
going to be
covering
so it's just covered, right?
the basis.
That's
yeah.
right. So I think he's on the right track. But I'm glad you said that you gave that to him because we need our legislators to start listening to do this. And this is what, and I know a lot of people listening here don't like Donald Trump because he's straight talking. He tells it like it is. He doesn't sugarcoat it.
That's what we need to hear.
That's right. He doesn't sugarcoat it. So this is bad. And this is what he wants to do on his tax thing. All right, there are some loopholes in there that I don't agree with 100%. But overall, the middle class is going to save money. And I always can't get over these people in Congress saying the millionaires, the millionaires, the millionaires, the
billionaires.
Yeah, all right. They pay a lot of money, all right? And they say they're giving it all to the millionaires and the middle class is losing. Well, if you do away with death tax and all these other things like the $1,200 per person, $2,400 per couple, and all these things here, and the average person's going to save money. And they keep throwing this millionaire stuff in there, but I think that Trump is kind of beating him on that because the people who elected him are middle class people. They're not millionaires that elected him.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
And I hope
they probably voted against him.
Right. And I hope in Virginia tonight the right guy wins. I called my brother-in-law up yesterday. I said, Raymond, you get down there and don't forget how to vote.
Good for you.
He says, well, he just moved from Stuart Draft to Richmond. He says, I can't vote. I said, yes, you can. You're a resident of Virginia. Even though you didn't live in Richmond, you show them your ID, they have to let you vote. Okay?
They do?
Yes, I was down at the polls for St. Albans Town, and when somebody came in, if they proved that they lived in Franklin County, even though they weren't on the checklist, they let them vote.
Wait a minute. Then what's to say that they couldn't go back to the town that they live in and vote again? I thought you had to be on the checklist for your voting district.
Yeah, but I think what they do is just what they did in New Hampshire. All right, they let them vote and then they verify, but it's too late. All right, but they let my brother-in-law. This guy's a Vietnam veteran.
It doesn't matter.
No. He got shot up bad over there, and if he had, I said, just bring all your paperwork. He's a citizen of Virginia. They can't stop you to vote. I don't think they can.
Well, that's something we should look into.
Well, I can look into it, but I mean,
because
if they let Mexicans vote, okay, why the hell wouldn't they let my brother-in-law, who served his country and almost died in Vietnam?
Well, I hope
they went back again and found him because they gave him up for dead. All right. So
look, I have every measure of respect for your brother-in-law.
No, not that, but I'm saying if we let Mexicans vote, we should let anybody who goes up there to
two wrongs don't make a right.
I know, but he doesn't look Mexican.
See, here we are. See, folks, we don't agree on everything.
Right.
But you brought up something. Now, now you've driven me into where I have to read this.
You're going to
to the governor. Another issue that needs addressing. Secretary of State Jim Condos recently stated in a newspaper article that between January 1st and June 30th of this year, 12,000 new voters were added to the voter checklist in Vermont. I would like to suggest and request that you order the Secretary of State to work with every town clerk to ensure that every voter on their town's voter checklist is a verifiable legal voter and a citizen of the United States. I would also request that Vermont implement a process whereby we ensure that people who vote in Vermont do not also vote in another state. For instance,
College students.
for college students and second homeowners in Vermont, the state of Vermont can create a form for them to send to their home state of residence stating that they choose to vote in Vermont versus by absentee ballot in their home state. That form can be sent also to the town clerk where they attend college and intend to vote, or have a second home in Vermont. That process should help to prevent voting in two places.
Right.
Okay, that's my solution for that problem. Regarding the voter checklists, town clerks are responsible for the validity of voter checklists. They deserve the respect of having time to verify the residency and legitimacy of voters well in advance of an election. Solution: stop same-day voter registration and require registration to occur at least 2 weeks prior to an election. Require the Department of Motor Vehicles and any other entity offering voter registration to verify and document a registrant's residency and citizenship, and to ensure that town clerks receive that information well in advance of an election. When we do not ensure voter legitimacy, the votes of Vermont citizens are diminished. The right to vote in this country is not only a right, but a privilege of citizenship.
Amen.
So there. Put the seal on that one, babe.
But yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. And these college students, right, and UVM,
It's fine if they vote here.
yeah, but they shouldn't be able to go back to Massachusetts and vote.
No, or get an absentee ballot. Yeah, right. So, and there have been some problems with second homeowners here.
Yep.
My understanding is there have been questions about that. And so let's get on it. Let's do it right. Let's make it a true, an honest system.
Right.
It's doable. Why are we playing all these loosey-goosey games and letting everything slide by? I don't get it. Rules are rules. Rights are rights. Do it right.
You ought to be a police officer.
Oh boy, watch out on that one. No, I do my thing. You know that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so sorry about going on. How about the death tax?
Well, I'm all in favor of it because I know I'm going to die sometime.
Oh, stop.
No, I'm in favor of it because you should be able to transport your estate to your family without them paying taxes.
Wait a minute. You said you're in favor of the death tax.
No, I'm in favor of that. I'm glad they're getting rid of it.
Oh. Well, are they?
Well, they're supposed to be, because why should my family have to pay money on taxes I've already paid?
Exactly. It's
and these
double
farmers,
taxation.
and I can't believe these people around the state of Vermont who have companies, and especially the farmers, where they can pass it to generation to generation. Back in the day, when we had horse and buggy stuff, that happened automatic, no problem. All of a sudden, we get this automobiles coming. Everybody comes in and says, well, we can raise money by doing this, this, and this, and this.
Well, I can't remember what year the death tax was implemented. It was somewhere around 1980 something maybe. I'm not sure. So don't hold me to that.
Well, that wasn't during Ronald Reagan's time. That was before. Yeah, but that had to be around what's his name, Lyndon Johnson's time.
It could be. I don't know.
Yeah, neither do I.
But
maybe somebody could call and tell us.
Yeah, somebody look it up and let us know. But the thing is, like you say, Don, you work all your life. You either have a farm or you have a business, or you're an employee, but you're a very successful employee and you make a fair amount of money and you have a family. You've paid taxes on all of your earnings,
right.
So the government's gotten its share. But this death tax, now the proposal is 40% of your what do you call it? Your estate.
Your estate, right?
Would go to the government.
Right. That's almost half.
Yes, and what about your children, your family, your whoever you want to leave it to? This is nonsense. So I know the Republicans are against the death tax.
Yeah. Well, this is why I said, our delegation needs to get involved, because the average Vermonter doesn't favor the death tax. Right? They want to get rid of it.
Well,
right?
Of course.
Right. So why
it's your money?
Right, when Bernie Sanders, Peter Walsh, Pat Leahy working with the Republicans to put this plan together instead of saying no, 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 no.
Okay, folks, viewers, how about a bunch of you getting together or individually calling the offices? You can look up online the offices' phone numbers, or call me, I'll give them to you, and ask them to vote against the death tax. Say, I'm a Vermonter, I live in St. Albans, or I live in Enosburg, whatever, and I'm going to be watching, and you better vote against this death tax.
We need to hold these guys accountable on their votes.
Absolutely.
Right? But they think that because the state is where it is, that they can do what they want and don't have to answer to anybody.
Where is the incentive to become successful and maybe earn $1 million or more, okay? Where's the incentive if you know that the government's going to take 40% of it, and you've already paid taxes on that money to start with?
Right. 40% is outrageous.
Yeah, well, the government shouldn't take anything.
That's what I'm saying, is outrageous, They take that money and they don't even use it correctly.
Exactly.
I mean, and in the last 8 years of the administration before, some of the things that the Democrats are fighting is the debt. Well, what happened in 8 years under Obama? The debt went
Doubled.
way up. Right. So all of a sudden, these guys wake up. What were they doing the last 8 years when the debt was going out of sky?
Yeah.
And they kept going, clapping at the State of the Union every January. They would clap, and where were they? Now they're saying we can't do it because of the debt. Well, you and I will be dead before this ever paid off. All right.
Oh,
but
yeah.
where were they 8 years ago? All of a sudden, because the Republicans are doing it, right?
Yeah.
They're against it. This is what I'm saying. They need to start working with each other.
I agree.
But I have seen something on TV that there are a couple Democrats who are up for re-election, incidentally. Okay, they're starting to come along, because I was watching some things this morning on
Looking
TV.
out for number one.
Right, and they were down in Virginia Beach, and of course there's over 800,000 retirees in that area of Virginia Beach, and I guess they're trying to figure out who they're going to vote for, right, in that governor's race, right? So they better start listening, because what they're doing now is they're cherry picking something, and they think that we're stupid out in La La Land, but we're not. I'm watching them close, and a lot of other people are watching them close. So now they're going to start kumbayaing because they're up for re-election.
Absolutely. So. And, sadly, that makes me think that they are mostly looking out for their re-election.
Yep, that's what they're doing.
Rather than the goal, the intent of doing the right thing for the people.
Well, I'm not picking on Bernie, but if, like I said, he's out doing nighttime television, he's out and he's going to colleges and things like this, trying to get that young vote, okay, who think socialism is great, and they keep talking about free college and all this. But
who's going to pay for that?
That's right. But you see what happened over in New York now, when Cuomo came down with that free college? the kids aren't as happy as they thought they would be. It's not that free to them. There's cost involved. So it was a big scam, all right, to get these people to vote or whatever and make them look good. I'm doing this. But they're really getting the end deal. They're saying, no, it's not all free.
Nothing is free.
It shouldn't be.
Except your freedom
Right.
to
Express yourself like we do.
yes, that's one thing that we have, thank God. But this country provides us with so much opportunity to excel and be successful. But guess what, folks? You have to work for it. You have to earn it. Surprise, surprise. You know, you're not going to get wealthy on someone else's earnings.
It shouldn't be.
No, no. So, not that wealth is everything. I mean, I don't know what it's like to be wealthy, but, and I don't care. You know, I've worked hard all my life. I'm content, and I do this and other things to try to make a difference, to help people to know what's going on. So what's the next thing? We have so many things to talk about.
I just mentioned there's going to be a parade this Saturday. You know, I think it's. I thought I saw it. They're going to have a parade, and I think they were going to do something at Taylor Park.
Oh, they usually do.
For Veterans Day. If somebody can verify that, I thought I caught that.
Yeah, that usually happens.
I know it. They used to do it on Veterans Day. And
Yeah,
most of the clubs, like the Elks, is having lunch for all veterans from noontime to 2 o'clock on Saturday at the Elks Club. And so if you're a veteran, you get a free lunch.
I'm not a veteran.
Well, that's why you can go up and pay $7 then.
Okay.
But I noticed there's...
I'm a member of the Elks.
I know, you go up and pay $7. But I noticed like 99 restaurant and a couple other restaurants, if you're a veteran, they're giving you a free lunch, which is nice.
We need to do more of that.
That's right.
Just show appreciation.
Right.
I love these men and women who serve our country. You know,
I don't dare bring this one up, but Bergdahl, what do you think about that sentence that he just got?
he should be in jail,
Right.
period.
I was talking to a friend of mine who's a veteran, and I said, I think that it's an Army judge who
Yes.
put it off, and I think he's either a major or a colonel. And I said, I'm willing to bet he doesn't get a promotion. Because the veterans are really, really upset about that.
Maybe somebody will let him know his services are no longer needed.
They should discharge him because Bergdahl, what he did, and didn't get any
Lives
jail
that
time.
were lost.
They're saying that the 4 years that he was held in captivity should count. Well, in my opinion, that was voluntarily. He volunteered himself to that, and we lost some people there. And then Obama gave, 4 or 5 of our worst enemies in exchange for him. And then they...
Oh, he gave up the guys at Gitmo, right?
Yeah.
Some of the worst.
And then we had things, he's in a rose garden, his mother and father, and they're considering him a hero for deserting. And the veterans have a hard time with that. Because remember I said about my brother-in-law, where they went back and found him because they thought they thought at one time he was dead,
Yes.
but they went back and found him alive, all right?
Wow.
And it's like you said, they never leave anybody behind. He was a Marine, okay? So they never leave him behind. They take the bodies with them because they don't want the enemies to have them.
Oh, yeah,
Okay?
absolutely.
All right? Because what
They're
they do...
brothers.
That's right.
Absolutely.
And those guys who went out looking for him died, a few of them. I think 3 or 4, and a couple of them got shot, and they have disabilities now. And for him to walk away, but God sent, he's not getting any back pay, I guess, and he's dishonorably discharged, so he won't
Not
get...
your brother-in-law, but
No, I'm talking Bergdahl.
Yeah.
Bergdahl won't get any veteran benefits.
Yeah, but all he had to do was pay a $10,000 fine.
Was that it, 10,000? I knew it was a fine. I couldn't remember it. But I saw him walking out of the courthouse, and I go, my shit, I can't believe it.
Well, we have to get tough. This country has to be tough. We have to preserve the foundation of our nation. We have to respect our laws.
Right.
Every time some judge makes a decision that circumvents the intent of the law, which I hope most of them do not do, thank you, excuse me, it weakens the law. And then they use it as an example going forward.
Right. Precedent, they say.
Precedent, yeah. I was just looking, marijuana, I sent my letter.
Oh, is this the one you were talking about?
Well, this is the article that I wrote in 2005. I was in the legislature on the Health and Welfare Committee for 4 years, from 2001 through 2004. And during that time, a bill came up to legalize marijuana for medical use. And I did a lot of research on it, and we had some great testimony from the Drug Enforcement, the DEA, Drug Enforcement Agency in D.C., and we had Carrie Sleeper, who was the head of public safety for the state of Vermont, and we had young people come in and testify that they had become addicted, just very young people actually, and how this young boy said, I hated my dad because he wanted me to stop using the marijuana. He said I was stealing from my family to support my habit, and he said I even gave young kids marijuana. He said, you know, it is addictive. There's no doubt about it. And anyway, I'm going to submit another letter to the editor, but I sent this. I told the governor I was going to send it to him because there are so many things about it. Not only is marijuana illegal in this country at the federal level, so anybody who wants to legalize it for any reason is breaking the law.
Right.
Okay? And I'm a proponent of abiding by laws. So marijuana smokers have a heightened risk of lung infection, risk of chronic cough, bronchitis, and emphysema, as well as cancer of the head, neck, and lungs.
Wow.
And poor pregnancy outcomes are another, you know, there's just so much. It affects the minds of our young people, so then you get their ability to learn is affected. It's just, you know, I could go on and on and on.
Bad stuff.
It's bad stuff. It's a couple of pages long. Listen to this. I'll just share this.
Yeah.
This is a letter I received from a mother's message. I wrote this at the end of my article. I will end with a message I received from one Vermont mother. I believe that Vermont's bill regarding marijuana for medical use will only make marijuana more available to Vermont's children. I lost my beloved son, Ian, to drugs. He was a college student and athlete with a bright future ahead of him. At age 14, he started using a little bit of pot. By age 18, he was using cocaine, and at 19, heroin.
Gateway drug.
It is. At age 20, Ian died of an overdose. I know 65 moms who have lost a child to drugs. Each of their children started with a little bit of weed. Legalizing marijuana as a medicine, or at all, sends our kids the message that marijuana is okay. We have learned many things since Ian's death, and I can assure you that if we fall for the hoax that marijuana is somehow medicine, we will be sending a message to children that we will live to regret.
And that's why we have that opium problem right now, because the drug companies didn't tell the doctors what really was there. And the doctors, I blame them. They overprescribed it. As I've said in the past, my friend who had the hip thing, they gave him like 60 some odd pills. He said, no, I'll take aspirin. I don't want it, you know, because he knew about that addiction. Yeah. And it does get you on there. And like marijuana, it's a gateway drug to bigger things.
Absolutely.
And here you saw, all right, and I forget, I should have clept it. I said, But I forget, there's quite a few people dying each day. I think about 170 or better each day of overdosing. And we're still having this down in Burlington, Vermont on a regular basis. And we have it here in Franklin County.
Do you notice in the obituaries,
Yep.
the young people, like maybe teenagers to 40 or so, when you read and they say died unexpectedly? And I'm always suspicious. I'm sure not in all cases, but I believe in many cases it
It's an
was
OD.
because of an overdose.
Yeah.
Yep. How sad is that?
It is.
There's a whole big world out there.
So why are we trying to ruin our youth?
Good question,
You know?
Don. Why do we have Common Core education deceiving our children about what our country's about?
Yeah, I know.
That's another topic.
I know. That's one of your favorites, I know.
Yes, it is. And I'll just say this. Bill Gates, one of the big supporters and people devoted to Common Core, somebody who was intimately involved in putting Common Core together and who provided multi-millions of dollars
You got to do it.
to the government to persuade states like Vermont to sign on to accepting the Common Core curriculum because they got money, and they had no idea at the time. The curriculum wasn't even completed, but they took the money, okay? Well, that was a big mistake, and now we have a lot of children learning things that they shouldn't be learning and not learning things that they should. When children are taught in school, and I'm not saying this has happened in Vermont schools because I don't know for sure, but I know in some states, they're teaching the girls how to apply a Muslim scarf. And they're teaching them to say the Muslim prayer, call to prayer, or whatever it is. Oh, yeah. And Allah is the only God. They're having them say that. I mean, really? Is that what we're paying for in education? I don't think so. Let me see here. Basically, local teachers, school boards, and parents do not have a say in the education of their children. Washington bureaucrats became the new bosses. They're the ones in control. This is the plan of radical liberals. They know that if they can indoctrinate the next generation of children to share their liberal beliefs about America and our values, they can reach their ultimate goal to fundamentally transform America, like Obama wanted to do, right?
Right.
He was going to transform America fundamentally into a socialist country.
Well, that's what I just said. 44% of millennials think in socialism. So they've done their job.
Yep.
They've done their job. Now we need to right the ship because this is crazy. When I read it, when I had that, I said, I got to write this down because I know Linda's going to be talking about something like that. And I will say, you know, and say, if you don't like it here, and like you said, why are they doing that? We can't, they won't say to pledge allegiance to the flag.
Nope.
Did you hear that? I also, there's a professor, I forget what college it is, wants to do away with the pledge allegiance of the flag.
Uh-huh. But they're you know, they're destroying our young people's belief in our country.
Right.
And that flag represents what our country is about. It represents freedom. It represents opportunity. It represents the founding, our Constitution, the sacrifices that have been made from day one in this country, all the people who fought and died and are maimed, you know, have fought under this flag. And it is a sacrilege not to have our schools that we're paying. You know what I told the principal in my town? If the students in this school are not saying the pledge to our American flag every day, I am not going to be a happy camper paying my property taxes to support this school. I told him that straight, close.
What did he say to you?
Oh, yes, they're saying it. Well, I won't go any further.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
Kaepernick, you know, Colin Kaepernick from the San Francisco 49ers,
Yep.
who started all this stuff, okay? Yep. He's now, no football team wants him. Mm-hmm. And there's like my Green Bay Packers, all right, Aaron Rodgers got hurt, and I think the one from Houston got hurt, and he's now saying that he's been blackballed by the owners. So he feels that because he is eligible to play, that the owners owe him a job.
Oh, right? Really?
Right. And I don't know if you saw on television, Vince Scully, you know who he is? Well, yeah, if you ever watched the Brooklyn Dodgers, he was the play-by-play guy.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but he got on television the other day and said he's no longer, this guy, you see, Vince, he's got to be in his 80s or better. He was out throwing the first pitch out at the World Series. Mm-hmm. He says, I'm all done. I'm not watching any more NFL football. So I was talking to my son the other night, and of course he lives in Nashville, and they have the Tennessee Titans there. And he has some friends who had season's tickets. And he says what they've done, all right, he's not giving the tickets away to anybody. He's just having empty seats. That's how upset they are down in Tennessee, that they're just giving up their seats. So, and if you watch it at all, and there's a movement, and I don't know how it's going to work, but I got an email, and I passed it on to a bunch of my friends. They're going to boycott the NFL
on the 12th.
On the 12th, Veterans Day weekend. They're going to boycott. Nobody's going to watch the NFL. And I'm praying, and I shouldn't pray for this, but I'm hoping that there's going to be one stadium where everybody gets up and just walks away, and these players are playing to nobody but wooden seats. Mm-hmm. And send a message to them that, you know, what you're doing, the majority of the Americans
it's not okay.
That don't believe, you're not, and I mean, I just don't want to watch football anymore for that one thing. There's one thing I did notice about and I did send it to a couple of friends, I sent it, I didn't see any kneels during the World Series.
Any what?
Kneels, where people kneel. They were all standing at the, I don't know if you saw it or not, I've watched it, but they took their hat off, put it over their heart during the national anthem. And one of the biggest things, excuse me a second, the last game of the World Series in L.A., they had 3 police officers sing the national anthem.
Oh, yes.
And they did a great job.
Wasn't that wonderful?
Wonderful. And you didn't see any knees there.
No. Well, it's a lack of respect for the country that is where they're earning millions of dollars. Mm-hmm. You know, I say, hey, if you're a football player and you think that people of your race are you know, having a hard time in this country, why don't you take some of your millions
and go into ghettos?
Go into the ghettos and work with these people and teach them the value of hard work and personal responsibility and inspire them. That's the way to get things done.
And the place they have not need to start is Chicago and Baltimore, because those 2 cities...
And Wisconsin.
Yeah, Wisconsin. But those 2 cities have the biggest crime rate of all the 50 states, you know, together, right? Because, you know, they get all excited about this, but there's a lot of murders every day and weekends in Chicago. Remember, I kept bringing that stuff up, and, you know, so that's where they need to put their money where their mouth is and go in there and show these guys, all right, and how to get them out of poverty, give them something that they want to live for, so they become good citizens instead of kneeling. They're not doing anything by kneeling.
Look.
They're alienating a majority of the United Americans by doing that.
Yes, and you know what they're doing? They're stirring up the true patriots.
Right.
The people who say, we've had enough.
Vince Scully is one of them.
Yes, and so am I.
That's it. And
carry your flag.
And like I said, my son says, he doesn't give the tickets away anymore. He leaves empty seats.
Yes.
He is really up there. I mean, that's costing that guy some buckaroos. Mm-hmm. I think he has 4 seats.
Standing on principle.
Right, at the Titans. Because my son last year used to take his daughter there because he'd give him the tickets. But he said, no, he's going to send a message by having empty seats.
Well, you know what? Sometimes it takes a negative to wake people up and say, hold on.
Enough's enough.
Enough's enough. We've had it up to here,
Right.
and we're standing up for our country now and our flag, and we're going to become patriots. And teach your children, folks, for heaven's sakes, about patriotism.
Right.
You know, we just don't. We need to. There's so much to be done. I'll never live long enough.
I told you. There must be a question out there that somebody must want to ask.
Well, it's too late.
It is?
It's 5 of, I think.
Oh, is it?
I mean,
It went by awful fast.
oh, when you're having fun, you know, when you're inspired. By the way, I read this afternoon, the Kaiser Foundation did a study, and between 1991 and 2014, Vermont hospital expenditures increased faster than any other state. Now, what we're doing now is we're this accountable care organization, ACO. This is an organization in Vermont where we have several hospitals, the medical center in Burlington, I think one in New Hampshire at least, one in New York. I believe our local hospital is involved. And they're all kind of working together somehow. But I wish it were affordable health care instead of, you know, accountable is great, but you have to be able to see a doctor. And I'm waiting over 3 months for a referral
Really?
to see a doctor. Absolutely. And so that is not, you know, there are 3 aspects to health care: access, quality, and affordability. And if all of the doctors, many of them are leaving their private practices and moving into the hospitals and working there, the overhead is huge. Hospital overhead has to be huge compared with a doctor's private practice. But doctors can't afford to keep their private practices anymore because one of the reasons we have so many Medicaid patients, they don't get enough reimbursement for the services.
Right.
To cover their insurance and their rent or their mortgage, whatever,
make
and
a profit,
staffing,
yeah.
and still make a profit.
Right.
So they're either retiring, just leaving the state, which 2 of my doctors have done, or they're going to work for hospitals. And it takes away choice for the patient. You don't have as many options.
True.
And so it's government control again.
You can't have your family doctor like you used to.
Oh, do you know what I remember? And we're down to the last minute and a half. When I was a young girl, I went to the doctor's. My mom was with me. The doctor, you know, the nurse receptionist gave us a bill. My mother paid it. And if you didn't have insurance or you didn't have the money, you bartered.
Yeah.
You said, hey, doc, I don't have the money to pay you, but I have chickens and I have eggs, and can we make a deal?
Yeah.
I'll provide you with what I can. And the doc will say, fine, that's great. You know, or I'll mow your lawn for all summer or whatever. You know, bartering's a good thing, but it gives you the sense of responsibility. Thank you so much for coming on. I think we covered a lot of territory tonight.
We did.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
And folks, thank you so much for joining us. I know no one called in, but you were probably just fascinated with the program and didn't want to miss a word. That's what it's all about.
There you go.
Anyway, don't forget our veterans this coming week, okay? And go to the parade on Saturday. Thanks again, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good night, everybody. Have a great week.